The 20th patient in Britain to test positive for coronavirus caught it within the UK, health officials have confirmed. Chief Medical Officer Professor Chris Whitty said it was not yet clear if the illness had been passed on from somebody who had recently travelled abroad. Health officials have begun efforts to trace anyone who may have come into contact with the patient. Professor Whitty said, one further patient in England has tested positive for COVID-19. The virus was passed on in the UK. It is not yet clear whether they contracted it directly or indirectly from an individual who had recently returned from abroad. This is being investigated and contact tracing has begun. The patient has been transferred to a specialist NHS infection centre at Guy's and St Thomas. The news comes after a British man became the first UK citizen to die from coronavirus. The man, who was on board the Diamond Princess cruise ship, was the sixth person from the vessel, which has been quarantined off the Japan's coast amid the outbreak, to have died. In Scotland, 500 people have been tested for the virus, but there have been no positive tests so far. Scotland is now the only part of the UK with no known cases of the virus, with England, Wales and Northern Ireland all affected. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said containing COVID-19 was now the government's top priority. He told reporters that he had met with the Health Secretary and Chief Medical Officers to discuss the preparations. He said, on the issue of coronavirus, which obviously is a great concern to people, I just want to reassure everybody and say that the NHS is making every possible preparation. As you can imagine, the issue of coronavirus is something that is now the government's top priority. I have just had a meeting with the Chief Medical Officer and Secretary of State for Health talking about the preparations that we need to make. Mr. Johnson said that people were right to be concerned about the virus, but the best thing they could do was regularly wash their hands with soap and water. He added, I just really want to repeat the advice of the Chief Medical Officers, which I think is the best thing to get across. The most valuable thing we can all do to prevent the spread of the coronavirus is to wash our hands for 20 seconds or more with hot water and soap. That's the best single piece of advice we can give. I think people are right to be concerned and they are right to want to take every possible precaution, and we will in the course of the next few days be issuing further advice about how to respond and how we will deal with any potential outbreak. When asked if the government should have repatriated people from the quarantined cruise ship Diamond Princess sooner, Mr. Johnson said it had been following. For more on this story, visit the news article link.